Hey, hey, hey! My name's Helium Descripted, or Nephilim if you prefer. Welcome to my cozy corner of the internet. This is the second chapter of Daichi Sawamura's Guide to Barely Surviving College, Sophomore Year Edition, written by Dark Rain 2610 on AO3. College started last week, and it's nice to have some work to do. This fanfiction includes topics that may be triggering to some viewers. If you are likely to be affected by any of the following: implied sexual content, drinking, homophobia, and internalized homophobia, then please consider listening to one of my other videos, such as the Age Row series, which is written by XX Cypress Minerva XX. Now I implore you to sit back and relax whilst I read to you. Chapter 2. Asahi's Perspective. Asahi Azumane, 21 years old, arts major, and if you asked his boyfriend, a total coward. Babe, you're telling me you'll talk to random strangers but won't go meet your new roommates? What kind of backwards logic is that? Asahi grimaced as he adjusted the hold he had on the phone, resting the box he was holding onto his hip. Nishi, the neighbor said the same thing. Aren't you supposed to be my encourager? Nishinoya's laugh rung through the phone's speaker as Asahi imagined his smile. I am! I'm encouraging you to go meet the people you're going to be living with for a year and get off on the right foot. Asahi sighed loudly so Noya could hear what he thought about that, but he stopped as he heard noises in the background on Noya's side. Right, it's his rush week too. He's probably missing something to be talking to his nervous wreck of a boyfriend. You know what, Nishi? You're right, Asahi said, gritting his teeth. I'm just overreacting. Asahi waited for his boyfriend to reply, hoping that his voice didn't betray what he was actually feeling. After a short pause, Noya's voice cracked over the speaker again. You're not lying to me, are you? Because we promised we would have open communication, especially for this year. Right. The kind of long distance. Noya was offered a soccer scholarship at a different college, while Asahi had stayed enrolled at Karasuno. Noya actually almost turned down the scholarship, hiding the letter from everyone, and saying he would go to Karasuno with Asahi, but when Asahi found the letter in the garbage, he convinced him to go and everything would work out between them with open communication. The one thing he wasn't doing at that moment. Yeah, Noya, I'm feeling a bit better. That technically wasn't a lie. He was feeling a bit better now he was talking to Nishinoya. So that counted, right? And I'm sure Shiro Torizawa has really fun Rush Week things you should go do. Asahi held back a shaky breath as he glanced back at his apartment door. If you're sure, I'll call you tonight. Asahi gulped as he felt the guilt start to pool deep in his gut as he agreed. One time, it's not a big deal. Love you, Nishi. Call you tonight. Hang up the phone. Asahi let out a long sigh as he moved his box back in front of him and grabbed his keys out. Going to open the door, Asahi yelped in surprise as the door swung open, revealing a very smug-looking, pink-haired man and a groaning guy with bushy eyebrows? Ha! Pay up, Matson! Knew the guy wouldn't spend 20 more minutes outside, the pink one exclaimed, dancing around the front room as Asahi moved slowly into the apartment. Asahi watched as who he guessed was Matson pulled out his wallet and handed over $5 to the other. You really couldn't have waited out 20 more minutes, man. Now I have to bum food off of this lug. Asahi shook his head with confusion as he willed his sense of speech to come back to him. Are you guys tormenting the new guy already? Asahi turned to look down the hallway as another man came out of a steamy room wearing nothing but a towel. The bathroom. This man was taking a shower and now he's coming to meet me in nothing but a towel. Asahi's speech surely wasn't coming back to him anytime soon. Asahi quickly turned back to Pinkie Pie and Matson as he felt the blush creep up his neck at an alarming pace. This was a horrible idea. I should have gone to clown college. Laughing rang throughout the apartment as Asahi forced himself to talk. "So, you guys are my new roommates," he said weakly. "Ah, actually, you just walked into a random apartment. We have no idea who you are." Asahi whipped around to face the grey one, but closed his eyes as he remembered what he was wearing, or lack of what he was wearing. "You're kidding me, right?" Asahi didn't deserve this. Maybe it was instant karma for lying to Noya. The grey-haired one laughed as he held out his hand for Asahi to shake. He has more faith in that towel knot than I do in the entire US government. Taking his hand, the man started to speak. "We're messing with you. I'm Sugawara Koshi, education major." This man was planning on raising the future generation? Asahi Azumane, art major. Pinky sat up from where he was lounging to look at Asahi. "That's where I recognize you from. Hanamaki Takahiro. I'm also in the art department, but film side of it. I saw that dress you made last year. Totally sick." Asahi nodded, thanking him for the compliment, as he looked at Matsun. The last guy shrugged as he lazily glanced back at him before turning his attention back to his phone. "Matsukawa Issei, Maki's boyfriend, don't actually live here." Asahi nodded again as Suga smiled brightly at him. "You're in a room with me, if that's okay. Maki over there wants to transfer student." Asahi smiled, unsure, but agreed. Maki and Matsun glanced at each other once again, and Asahi had a feeling that he was going to hate that look they give each other by the end of the year. "So, a transfer student, huh?" Asahi asked, slowly sitting down on the chair. Matsun grinned as Maki nodded quickly. "Yep, Krasno's apparently offered him a full ride to switch from Shiratorizawa to play football for us. Heard he could give Bokuto a run for his money for the arm wrestling event this year." Suga laughed as he turned back towards what Asahi hoped was their shared room to change. "I don't believe it. I just talked to Bokuto, so unless he has incredible muscles and a brain to match, Bokuto's my bet." Suga called over his shoulder as Asahi thanked whatever god was watching over him. This year was stacking up to be a living hell. But hopefully, these people would mellow out over time. I mean, it's only the first day. How bad could this year be? Iwaizumi's perspective. How the hell did I get lost on a smaller campus? Iwaizumi thought as he looked at the stupid campus map again. Transferring to Karasuno was the obvious choice when the scholarship was offered, but it didn't come without difficulties. 1. He had to find a room that wasn't full, which proved to be difficult in that he couldn't snag a 2-person apartment. Fine! He'll just take a 4-person one. It wasn't like he was used to rooming with someone. He had a perfectly fine roommate at Shiratorizawa and still texted him on occasion. Semi was perfectly calm when he told him he was transferring, and even agreed that it was a smart choice. Of course, his friend Tendo didn't seem to agree, but Iwa and him never seemed to agree on anything, to be honest. The guy gave him the creeps. 2. The actual campus. Sure, Shiratorizawa was way bigger, but seriously, who organised this campus? Why was the arts building right next to the football field, but the gym was on the other side? Iwa felt himself groan as he dropped the map again and bent down to pick it up. "Damn, boy!" he heard yelled across the yard, followed by laughing from what sounded like a group of females. And finally, the actual students! He honestly didn't see this as a problem till he stepped on campus and immediately felt the air change from what he was used to at Shiratorizawa. They were just so open with what they said. What Iwaizumi means is that they had no filter at Karasuno, and unlike Shiratorizawa, everyone seemed okay with that. Iwaizumi didn't think he was a stick in the mud, but Having his first day, he may be ready to reevaluate that opinion. Turning around to face the catcallers, Awizumi realised the offenders had left and Iwa was alone in the outside common area again. Well, almost empty, as a familiar face came round the corner. Sawamura? Iwa felt himself call out before he could stop himself. Daichi looked up from the ground and smiled a warm smile as he called back out to Iwa, but Awizumi could tell something was bugging him. Having not talked to the other man since the last day of football camp they both went to, Awizumi decided it wasn't his place to ask. "Didn't know you transferred," Daichi said, clasping on the shoulder while grabbing one of Iwa's suitcases he had set down. "You look a little lost. Need help?" Iwa felt himself nod and follow him as Daichi went on a rant about the school's football team and how lucky they were to have Awizumi play. 304. I just talked to a guy rooming there. Seemed nice enough, if not a bit jumpy. I'm sure you'll fit in just fine. Daichi smiled at him as he gestured to the building in front of them. This is it. Home sweet home. This is why Awizumi was gay. Because of guys like Daichi Sawamura. Nice guys that you just can't help but fall for. Ones that are open and honest with what they're feeling. Despite knowing that him and Daichi wouldn't work out logistically, Iwa was perfectly happy with holding on to the small schoolboy crush he had. Besides, Awizumi was almost 100% positive that every slightly gay man and straight woman has had a crush on Daichi. It seemed inevitable, whether it was because of how handsome he was, or how oblivious he seemed. Every person Iwa had talked to about Daichi had admitted to liking him at some point. Daichi Sawamura, you get back here this instant and explain yourself! A loud voice rang out from above them as Daichi's eyes widened to a frankly concerning degree. Pulling Iwa quickly underneath the bottom staircase, Daichi put his finger to his lips, signalling Awizumi to stay quiet. Awizumi held his breath as quick steps thundered above them, but let the air out slowly as the footsteps seemed to fade away. Want to tell me what trouble you somehow got in the first day of college? Iwa asked, smiling even though he was a bit concerned about how wild Daichi's life seemed already. Daichi glanced up with a tired look in his eyes as he sighed. Well, Daichi finally said, gearing up to tell Iwa a story he was sure would be more exciting than anything he did during his first year at Shiratorizawa. It actually started last year with... Suddenly, another man peeked his head around and with a successful laugh, walked confidently around the turn to face the two hiding guys. Iwa watched confused as Daichi threw his head down and groaned. Daichi! Funny meeting you here. Iwa flinched as the man said the words, feeling like each word was laced with a different poison. Smiling down at them both, Iwa found it hard to keep eye contact, but Iwa's moms didn't raise a quitter. Raising an eyebrow at what seemed to be Iwa's stubbornness, the admittedly beautiful man turned his full attention to Daichi, who was looking just about everywhere but at him. Daichi, what the fuck was that? I didn't take you as a coward. Are you scared of the new roommate? I mean, he's hot, but not Oikawa Toru hot. And you're in a room with me, so basically you should have used the "it's too hot in here" excuse when you saw me looking like a snack on the couch. As who he assumed was Oikawa Toru continued to ramble about the injustice of it all, Iwa felt himself lose focus as he took in the man in front of him. This is why Iwaizumi sometimes wishes he wasn't gay. Watching this clearly self-centered man rant about himself and how much better looking he was than this Koro guy shouldn't turn him on, but Iwa could only focus on how nice Oikawa's hair looked with the slight breeze blowing through it,
and how fit he was. I'm such a useless gay sometimes. At least this very attractive man you have with you is appreciating beauty when he sees it. Iwa's heart skipped several beats as he processed what he had just heard. One, he got caught staring, which he should, and will later, be mortified with. But the pretty, if a bit egotistical guy said he was attractive too. And second, both of the other men hiding under the staircase were waiting for him to say something. Maybe I was trying to figure out what was stuck in between your teeth, shitty cower. Ever think about that? Okay, what the literal fuck, Iwa? Oikawa looked at Iwaizumi with shock, then murder blazing in his eyes, as he gasped, incredibly loud. Iwa had to admit he kind of looked like a fish that had gotten stuck on land and was now flopping around, angrily flopping, but still gasping for air. Suddenly, Daichi's low laugh rumbled out of him as he dropped Iwa's suitcase to hold his stomach. Oh my god! Daichi gasped out, looking slightly unhinged, as Oikawa and Iwa shared a concerned look. Rude comment forgotten for the moment. I'm sorry, but Iwa, did you see Oikawa's face? Iwa let a snort pass through his mouth, but swallowed down the actual laugh as Oikawa pouted. Damn it! He was attractive pouting too? I'm glad. My pain is amusing you, Daichi. Now can you come upstairs and explain to me what the hell is going on? Daichi nodded, wiping his eyes of actual tears as he stood back up straight. You good from here, Iwaizumi? Daichi asked, handing him back the suitcase Iwa was pretty sure had at least 2 broken things in now. Iwa nodded, taking the bag and waving awkwardly to the two of them as he heard footsteps walk up the stairs. Letting out air he wasn't aware he was holding, Iwa forced his shoulders to relax as he turned to leave the area as well. Ah! Iwa let out a pitchy scream that he would later deny, as he was face to face with Oikawa, who was leering down at him with a calculating look. Damn it, Oikawa. Why are you still standing here? Oikawa continued to stare as Iwa looked back at him with challenging eyes. Honestly, what's your issue? Oikawa tilted his head as he looked changed from calculating to satisfied, a small smile falling on his face. I was trying to place you, but I figured it out. Iwaizumi Hajime, right? Quarterback of Shiro Torizawa last year. Iwa kept eye contact as Oikawa's smile shifted to something more wicked, making Iwaizumi's gut clench. Or you would have been, if Ushijima hadn't switched from up north. Played in almost every game up to semi-finals, where you got benched. Iwa could feel his breath quickening as his hands started to clench up. That's why you're here, isn't it? Because you got replaced. Iwaizumi could feel his blood run warmer as he interrupted Oikawa's taunt. It's interesting that you know so much about me, but I've never heard your name before. Not popular around campus? Iwa was betting on a few things he had observed from the taller man, one of them being that the guy liked attention. Iwaizumi felt a jolt of gratification as the other man's smile faltered slightly before sliding back in place. Oikawa rolled his eyes as he walked a few steps closer to Iwa, raising his heart rate once again. I wouldn't expect you to know about me, Iwaizumi, as you seem a bit thick to think about the arts. Just football up there, right? Oikawa knocked on his head, making Iwa feel even more frustrated as he backed up, but realized he was against the stairwell. Football and partying, right? Do you even study? Fuck it. Iwa grabbed Oikawa's hips as he flipped him so he was the one on the wall, both of them breathing heavily. Iwaizumi grabbed Oikawa's hands to pin them over his head, while looking at him with darkened eyes. "Listen here, Oikawa Toru." Iwaizumi spit out, gripping Oikawa's wrists even tighter when he tried to wiggle them free. "You don't know me, you don't know my story, and you don't get to make judgments till you do. Got it?" After Oikawa nodded silently, Iwaizumi let go of his wrists and took a step back, turning around as he tried to find a way to end the conversation. Rubbing the back of his neck, Iwa looked back at Oikawa with a sheepish grin. "Look, I'm sorry we got off to a rough start. Pinning you was..." "I was right." Iwa whipped back around in annoyance as Oikawa just smirked at him. "And what, pray tell, were you right about?" Iwa asked as Oikawa stepped towards him till Iwaizumi had to raise his head to meet his eyes. "You're cute when you're flustered, and say things you don't mean, but you're incredibly hot when you're angry." Oikawa patted his cheek as he walked past Iwaizumi. "Don't worry about having a rough start. I don't mind. I can't wait to get to know you, Iwaizumi, to make a fair judgment. See you around." Iwaizumi stood stunned, watching the other man leave for good this time. Listening to the sound of receding footsteps, Iwa shook his head to hopefully clear his thoughts. "Who the hell does he think he is?" Iwaizumi picked up his suitcases as he started to walk out of the stairwell himself, but decided to wait for a second more to have his breathing level out. After all, he had to let his boner calm down too. Suga's perspective. Sugawara Koshi, education major, comes from major money, major partier, major slut. Suga sighed as he deleted the text from his phone, blocked the random number, and ran cold water over his face. You have to give them props for the word reputations. That was clever. Suga shook his head. "As soon as I win the presidency, it'll get better. No one can ruin your reputation if you're so far above them you can't hear what they're saying. So Suga lets a bit loose this summer. Big deal. So Suga sleeps with a few more people than what is apparently socially acceptable. It shouldn't matter, but it did. It mattered to Suga's parents." "Want to explain what this is?" Suga's dad calmly but coldly said, placing several photos in front of him that looked like they were posted on a social media account. Looking closer at the photos, Suga inwardly groaned as he clearly picked out him making out with a random guy at a party he attended at the beginning of summer. Suga's dad cleared his throat as Suga looked back up. "This is unacceptable, Koshi." Suga remained still, but felt his heart full as his dad continued. "Your mother and I have been more than understanding as you experimented, but this has gone on long enough. You must know by now that you are very straight and will be getting married to a girl to continue the Sugawara line. Isn't that correct?" Suga looked over to his mum for any kind of support, but felt his eyes water as she looked down, shaking her head softly. "Of course, father. Any past mistakes won't be made again once college starts up again." Blinking back tears, Suga met his father's eyes with what he hoped was a confident enough stare that the conversation could be over. "Very well. I'm glad you agree. After all, your mother and I have been very generous paying for your college." Suga's father continued, and Suga nodded again, trying and failing to relax his shoulders. "And we even supported the choice of profession, even though we thought finance would have been a much better choice." Suga glanced at his mum again, willing her to say something, anything. "I know you don't think that, please speak up." Suga pleaded with her in his head. Again, Suga's mother avoided his eyes. "The least you could do is be respectful of the morals of this family. Do you understand what I'm getting at?" Suga looked up at his father again, confusion spreading across his face as he tried to piece the mess of what his dad was saying. Sighing, his father shook his head while standing up. "I'm saying, by the end of this school year, I'm expecting you to come home sometime with a woman your mother and I would approve of. Do you understand now? Suga felt the tears escape as his father didn't wait for his reply and walked out of the room. Staring at the now empty doorway, Suga felt the tears running down quickly, but sat motionless as he let them start to soak into the collar of his stupid, preppy shirt his parents insisted he wore. Suga's mother finally looked up from the apparently interesting floor to look at Suga, but this time Sugawara didn't move to meet her eyes. Ko, his mother started, putting on a small but sad smile as she touched his knee. Flinching away, Suga's mother sighed as she neatly folded her hands back into her lap and stared slightly above Suga's forehead. Both of them sat in silence as the tears continued to fall silently. Finally, Suga's mother stood up too. Koshi, your dad wants only what's best for you. Suga could feel the anger begin to build back up as he took in a shaky breath. I have a feeling Father wants what's best for the family name, and that vision doesn't include a gay son. Suga watched as his mother's shoulders tense up as she stopped at the walkway, clenching the frame of the door so hard her knuckles turned white. The vision is of a happy family, Koshi. It's up to you to make it happen now. It wasn't fair. The words echo in Suga's brain as he looks back into the bathroom mirror, staring back into the eyes that didn't seem to be his anymore, throwing up the smile he had perfected way back in middle school. Suga felt satisfied that none of his roommates would be able to tell that a few moments ago he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Suga closed his eyes and took a deep breath, running through his mantras quietly. I am fine just the way I am. I don't need my parents' approval, and I don't need any man's. Being gay isn't a crime, and enjoying sexual activities doesn't make me a slut. Taking in another deep breath, Suga went to continue before another voice joined his very private conversation. I agree. However, I have a feeling I wasn't supposed to hear that. Suga's eyes shot open as he made contact with Matsun's lazy smile through the mirror. Flushing rapidly, Suga turned quickly to make look at Matsukawa directly. How long were you there for? Suga whispered violently, taking sharp breaths as the other man threw up his hands in mock defeat. Chill out, Mr. Refreshing. I won't say anything right now. I was just coming to tell you the transfer is coming up the stairs finally, but he's probably in the apartment now if you wanted to say hi. Matsukawa stopped leaning against the doorframe and raised an eyebrow. Suga took a deep breath and flashed a quick smile towards Matsun that the other guy shook his head at. Of course, I'd love to. Shoving past him, Suga gave him a quizzical look as they both moved towards the living room. What's with the nickname? Matsukawa gave a smirk as they continued. Well, I found it refreshing that you seem so put together on the outside, but you're completely broken on the inside with no inclination to get help from someone. You really know how to charm a guy, don't you, Matsukawa? Matsun ignored him, continuing like Suga hadn't even spoken. It seems pretty fucking dumb to keep all of that in when you have at least 2 healthy outlets you could vent to. Suga side-eyed him as he stops before entering the living room, watching him lean against the wall casually, like he hadn't just ripped Suga's fragile reality apart with under 50 words. What are you, a therapist? Matsukawa patted him on the back, moving off the wall and walking past him. Not exactly. Nodding his head in the direction of the living room, Matsun shrugged. Consider me healthy venting option number 3, if you want. Suga watched the mysterious man leave, yelling for Hanamaki to move his legs as he entered. Not quite sure what he was feeling, Suga could almost say he was content about how that weird but nice and open conversation went. Taking in one more deep breath, Suga smiled. A small but real smile as he walked out into the living space. Waving hello to Asahi in the tiny kitchen, Suga turned to greet the last roommate when he froze. Standing in front of him had to be a Greek god, because this man's arms looked like he could lift Asahi himself with little to no resistance. Holding out his hand, Greek god smiled warmly at Sugawara, as Suga could feel his poor gay heart speed up. "Hey, Iwaizumi Hajime." Suga felt himself smile, real again. A record for the day as he took Iwaizumi's hand in his. "Sugawara Koshi." Suga quickly checked the man over again as his eyes widened at a smile degree when he saw the not-so-small problem Iwaizumi was having. "Suga, you don't have to comment on it. You don't have to make a joke." "You know what I said about Bokuto?" Suga felt his mouth move by its own accord, keeping his eyes on Iwa's, but saw out of his peripheral vision that Hanamaki was nodding with a sly grin on his face as Matsun let out a quiet snort. "I was wrong. Bokuto might actually have a hard time this year." Matsun and Maki let out actual laughs as Asahi sighed loudly. Suga watched as Iwaizumi flushed pink. Sugawara finally let go of Iwa's hand, but continued to look at him, knowing he was checking him out in front of everyone. Finally, Suga turned around. "It was nice meeting all you guys, but I'm beat. I can't wait to get to know you all better." Throwing Iwaizumi one last glance and a sly smile, Suga made his way back down to his and Asahi's room, getting in and closing the door. Suga put his hand over his heart to count the beats as he breathed in and out. "Well, if this is my last year being myself, I've got to make it count." Throwing himself onto his bed, Suga let a determined look fall on his face as he stared up at the ceiling. "This is gonna be my gayest year, bitches!" Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support you've given me. It took a while to finish this chapter due to college, but it's better late than never. If you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. All credits go to the original creator of this fanfiction, DarkRain2610 on AO3. I'd highly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and you subscribe to the channel and you hit the notification bell to be notified of when I next upload. There's no pressure to do so though. Thank you for visiting my cozy corner of the internet. Keep growing my sunflowers. Mwah!